Longer. Here he comes.
Very good. I will welcome him formally a little later. So it's 10:02 a.m. and
Hang on one second.
Oh, sorry.
I'm looking over to my left. I want to make sure we're up and live and running on YouTube. All right, we're ready to go.
Try this again. 10:02 a.m. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Directors of Friday, January 27th, 2023. Please note, this meeting is live streamed, as you've just heard, on YouTube and recorded. Members of the public are encouraged to watch and listen to the meeting on YouTube or by dialing into 415-569-6446 for the audio of this meeting. And I'm going to give that number again in a moment. If you would like to provide public comment at today's meeting and have not done so already, please call 415-569-6446 and let the facilitator know you would like to provide public comment. I appreciate everybody's patience as we move through today's meeting. We have several oaths of office to conduct, 3 at least. I will turn this back over to the secretary to complete the oaths. Madam Secretary, please.
Thank you, President Terrio. I'm going to start with Supervisor Matt Dorsey, followed by Super Asha Safai, and then Supervisor Stephanie Moulton-Peters. Supervisor Dorsey, do you have the oath of office text before you?
I do.
All right, awesome. When you're ready, please go ahead and begin reciting the oath, beginning with, I, Matt Dorsey, do solemnly swear. Go ahead.
I, Matt Dorsey, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter, and during such time as I hold the office of Director of the Golden Gate Bridge, Highway, and Transportation District.
Thank you, Director Dorsey, and welcome to the district. Supervisor Safai, I'm going to call on you next. Do you have the oath of office text before you?
I do.
Great, thank you. When you're ready, please go ahead and begin reciting.
I, Asha Safai, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I will take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter, and during such time as I hold the office of the Director of the Golden Gate Bridge, Highway, and Transportation District.
Thank you, Director Safai. Welcome to the district as well. Supervisor Moulton-Peters, do you also have the oath of office text?
I do.
Perfect. When you're ready to begin, go ahead.
I, Stephanie Moulton-Peters, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter, and during such time as I hold the office of Director of the Golden Gate Bridge, Highway, and Transportation District.
And a great welcome to you too as well. President Terry, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to you so you can continue.
Thank you so much, Madam Secretary. Director Dorsey, now that you are officially among us, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I would appreciate the opportunity to do that. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm really excited to be joining the Golden Gate Bridge board today and just getting to know some of my new colleagues and having a chance to work with my current colleagues and some of the folks from San Francisco. And it's great to see people I don't know and I'll have an opportunity to get to know, and some familiar faces and faces from my past, including I think the person I knew the longest, who I reported to when I was volunteering for the Dukakis Committee back in 1986, Kim Manolius. It's good to see you. So I was appointed to the Board of Supervisors last May by Mayor London Breed, and then I was elected in my own right to the Board of Supervisors here in San Francisco by voters in November. I represent the district that includes south of Market, Mission Bay, Treasure Island. I represent San Francisco's other iconic bridge, the Willie Brown Bay Bridge. My district is home to a lot of high density housing, and with more to come. It also hosts the Golden State Warriors and the San Francisco Giants and Moscone Center. Most of the transit districts that exist in the Bay Area come through my district, and transportation is a very important thing to me. I am also a member of the board who doesn't own a car. My preferred means of transportation is either bike share or transit. So I'm excited about getting to work on these issues that affect me and that I sort of live every day. And then I will just also share that I have a sort of personal affection for the Golden Gate Bridge. Back in my 40s, I used to run marathons, and my base long run, it was a 16-mile run, always included a run across the Golden Gate Bridge and back. And my aspiration this year is to do a half marathon. So we'll see if I get back up to marathon shape. But I am looking forward to getting Golden Gate Bridge runs back into my workout routine. So I'm looking forward to serving with all of you. I'm looking forward to having a productive year. And thanks for the opportunity to introduce myself.
Thank you so much, Director Dorsey. Director Safai, Asha, the Excelsior is now doubly represented on this board. Welcome, and do you have a few words to say to us?
Yes, sir. I might not have the Chase Center. I might not have all the areas of transportation, but I have the great honor of being the supervisor and representative for the president of this body, Mike Terrio. So just all take note of that. Represent the great District 11, Excelsior Outer Mission. But what I do have, and which I think is very important to the tradition and history of this body and board, is I have the great honor of representing the most working families, union households in the entire city and county of San Francisco. 1 in 4 households is a labor household. Those traditions run deep. They are true. We bleed red and gold out in the Excelsior. So there's going to be a lot of excitement for the 49ers this weekend. You better believe that. And these are generational families that have been living in their homes often in the same home as their grandparents, their parents, multi-generational, multi-time. So had the great conversation with Director Mulligan and Secretary Ko Wong yesterday to hear about the wonderful history of this body. I am a city planner by professional training, so the way in which everything in a city comes together, transportation, otherwise, is extremely important to me. So I look forward to serving with many of you who I have worked with for years, and others who I have known, and others who I will get to know. And I think this is a great body that I think plays an integral role in providing so much, not just the history and iconic view of our bridge, but also really feeding and supporting the transportation to help the economy of the area and the city. So thank you very much. Look forward to serving with you all.
Thank you, Director Safai. Ms. Moulton-Peters, Director Moulton-Peters.
Thank you very much. Bringing up the rear. So glad to be part of this board. I am a diehard transit user. I formerly lived in the marina in Cow Hollow and rode the 41 Union and the 31 in the city. Moved to Marin County and became a diehard number 4 Golden Gate Transit rider and a Larkspur Ferry rider. So very proud to be part of the board. District 3, Southern Marin, is a North Tower, including Mill Valley, Sausalito, Tiburon, and Belvedere, where Council Member and Director Holly Thier is active. I've been the immediate past chair of our Transportation Authority of Marin, where I was chair for 6 years, as well as a director on Marin Transit for 12 years during the time I was a Mill Valley Council member, and now as a supervisor for Southern Marin. I've worked with Director Rabbit and Director Parr in the 6 years I served on the SMART board. and with Commissioner Garbarino on matters in Marin County. So anyway, very glad to be a part of this, looking forward to be helpful and just dig right in. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Director Moulton Peters. Thanks to all three of our new directors. But I think maybe we'll put you on the spot now and get right back down to business. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Thank you, and welcome to our three new directors. I'm going to start with Director Conroy.
Present.
Thank you.
Present.
Director Dorsey.
Present.
Director Garbarino.
Here.
Director Giudice.
Here.
Director Grosboll.
Here.
Director Hernandez.
Here.
Director Maston.
Here.
Director Moulton Peters.
Here.
Director Parr.
Present.
Director Rabbit.
Here.
Director Rodoni.
Here.
Director Safai.
Here.
Director Snyder.
Here.
Director Stephanie is absent. Director Thier.
Here.
Second Vice President Hill.
Here.
First Vice President Cochran.
Here.
And President Terrio.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Please be patient as we go through today's board agenda. Let me remind you, all my colleagues especially, to mute your microphones and remember to unmute when we open up for directors' discussion. If directors are calling in by phone, I don't see any. Do we have any, Madam Secretary? One, okay. Please use your mute button or *6 to unmute yourself. I'll ask for any questions or comments on items on the agenda items. Click on the raise hand function if you can, if on your device if you have a question, or press *9 for the raise hand function if joining by phone. Or if you can't do either of those, wave your hand furiously and the secretary and I will try to pick that up. If there are any questions, the secretary or I will call on you accordingly. If we missed your raised hand, please speak up. Following any discussion, we'll take the appropriate roll call vote if you're not speaking. Again, please remember to mute your phones to minimize background noise on today's meeting. I'm going to give my standard apology when I'm sitting in this particular room. There's a very busy city street right out there. 29 Sunset goes by every 15 minutes, and a helicopter flew over just before the meeting started. So there is occasional possible interruption from street noise on this end because I keep my microphone open. I apologize for that in advance. Please follow along by referring to page numbers located on the bottom right-hand corner of your meeting packet. And Director Giudice, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hoorah.
Thank you, Director Giudice. Before we move on to public comment under item 4, Madam Secretary, we were at 3 callers. How many do we have now? Do you know?
I believe we are still at 3, but at the end of the 3, Justine will ask for time in the event we need to pull again. Okay.
Okay. 3 call. We take normally 30 minutes for that. 3 callers. We can give a full 3 minutes to each caller. So let's do that. Madam Secretary, please proceed.
Thank you. We're going to take a public comment, item number 4, for any and all items on today's agenda. If you wish to speak on an item on our agenda, please speak to it now. And Justine Bach is going to assist us in moderating our public comment line. Justine, go ahead and introduce our first speaker.
Good morning and thank you. Our first speaker this morning is Kimberly Renee Gamboa. Kimberly Renee, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Kimberly Renee Gamboa, and I am holding one of my favorite photos of my 18-year-old son smiling ear to ear in his high school class picture. Kyle jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge on September 20th, 2013 at 11:45 a.m. As construction of the suicide net continues, more lives are being saved every single day. Words cannot convey the depth of emotion and the relief we will feel in knowing that soon suicides will be greatly reduced and hopefully eliminated at the Golden Gate Bridge. No amount of time or money is ever wasted in saving a life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gamboa. I bicycled across the bridge the other day and talked to the ironworkers and heard they're moving along to outriggers at the towers. So progress. Ms. Bach, the next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Dave Rohde. Mr. Rohde, go ahead. Dave,
Board members.
go ahead.
Board members, managers, and staff. Are you hearing me?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. New phone. Board members, managers, and staff, good morning. My name is Dave Rohde. I work with the Bay Area Climate Reality Project. First, congratulations on the $400 million you just received from the federal government for a retrofit of the Golden Gate Bridge. I was delighted to hear that, though part of me was saying, couldn't you throw in an extra $100 million for electric buses? As most of you know, I've been advocating for the Golden Gate Bridge Transit District transitions to all electric ferries and buses for some time. I appreciate the interest this board and district managers and staff have shown in achieving zero emissions, but I assure you that I am not about to let up on my advocacy. As the first board meeting of the new year, I thought it appropriate to review a few issues. On October 25th, 2019, the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transport District Board voted unanimously to pass a climate emergency resolution. In May of 2021, per the requirements of the California Air Resources Board, the Golden Gate Bridge District submitted a zero emissions bus rollout plan. Although the plan calls for the purchase of 16 zero emissions buses in 2026, it also calls for the purchase of 23 conventional diesel buses next year. You're aware, of course, that your diesel buses and ferries are using a biofuel called renewable diesel. I'll spare you the details of a life cycle analysis showing biofuels to result in very little reduction in carbon emissions, but we'll add that because California's biofuels now rely mostly on food crops like soy, canola, and corn, their excessive use is contributing to global food scarcity and driving up food costs. Please remember that you initially referred to renewable diesel as a bridge fuel, something you would use to lower the carbon intensity of your transit system while you transition to electric buses and ferries. While urging you to change next year's purchase of 26 buses to electric rather than diesel, I know that scenario has gotten much tougher. I was very disappointed to hear Governor Newsom announce that due to the state's budget deficits, he's cutting $6 billion from capital programs, including climate and transit infrastructure. But I've become a fan of this organization's creative and proactive fundraising abilities. I know you'll stay on top of the transit electrification funds available from the state through CARB and the California Energy Commission. And I know you'll keep an eye on the money in the pipeline from the IRA climate bill. With funds in place for the bridge retrofit, perhaps you can put even more focus on funds for electrification. We know that a major earthquake is probable in the next decade or two, and we also know that during that same time period, the climate crisis is going to escalate to catastrophic levels if we do not achieve zero emissions as fast as we possibly can. I am confident that you are on this board to lead this iconic organization into a thriving and sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rohde. Ms. Bach, the next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is David Pilpel. David, go ahead.
Great. Good morning, David Pilpel from San Francisco. Welcome to the new directors, some of whom know me pretty well. On item 5, the minutes on page 44 on the bottom, item 11B on the open session, there were 2 matters reported out from closed session, and the reference in the minutes are both to item 6A. I think it would help to indicate which was item sub 1 and sub 2. Sorry, it's very buried, and I'm sure the district secretary can fix that. It would just to clarify the references. Moving on, if there was a meeting of the Strategic Plan Advisory Committee this morning, I hope it went well. Since there was no GAPI meeting today, I am concerned, as the previous speaker mentioned, about possible cuts in state transit funding. Perhaps we'll hear more about that today and in the future, and perhaps those cuts won't happen. I will consider going to board meetings in San Francisco in person starting in March. If meetings are held elsewhere, probably not. I think the public has been well served with hybrid meetings. Posting all documents online and calling in is great. I hope you'll continue with those hybrid meetings, even if the board and the committees are meeting in person. I think the public is well served, and public participation, in fact, has been enhanced in the last 3 years with hybrid meetings. On item 10B, if termination of the suspension of board rules due to the COVID emergency is likely next month, then I hope the district would have a more detailed report next month on the implications of terminating the suspension, what that means to go back to the way things were, et cetera. Anyway, all of that. And finally, congratulations, as was already stated, on the federal award and the event on Monday. And I have nothing else to add today beyond my comments from yesterday's meetings. Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Pilpel. The Strategic Planning Advisory Committee will meet after this meeting. Do we have anyone else, Ms. Bach?
We do not, and we have no additional speakers that have called in. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bach, and thank you, everyone, for your remarks. Mr. General Manager, do you have anything you want to add or reply to the comments?
I just want to thank all three speakers. Ms. Kimberly Renee Gamboa is a tremendously effective advocate, and I thank her for her passion and advocacy. And we look forward to the completion of the net. With respect to Mr. Rohde's comments, I do acknowledge that he disputes the California Air Resources Board's evaluation of benefit associated with the renewable diesel product that we use. And we do, as we stated previously, acknowledge it's a bridge fuel. With respect to the bus purchases that we had in our zero emission bus plan, they may be postponed some due to the reduced demand for transit service in the corridor. It's still an open question. We have two types of buses in our fleet. One is a 45-foot over-the-road coach, and currently the technology is not such that we can complete a day of service with one of those buses in a fashion that would meet the expectations of our customers. But the timing of that may change, and more to follow. With respect to Mr. Pilpel, it's always a pleasure to hear from him, and I appreciate his thoroughness in reviewing our comments, and we always look forward to his suggestions on all the items that he spoke to, particularly yesterday's. So I just want to thank him, and with that, I have no other comments on public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mulligan. And again, thank you, everyone, for your participation in public comment. This concludes public comment for today. Madam Secretary, next item on the agenda, please.
President Theriault, can I offer just 1 second if you could give us an indulgence and one more moment to pull the public line while
Sure,
Dennis Mulligan was speaking? We did have somebody join the line, so we want to make sure that that person didn't call in deliberately to speak. So
okay.
Give us 1 moment.
Please.
All right, thank you. We do not have any other speakers.
Okay, and I'm going to offer an additional apology. Back on the other side of the room, there is a blue and gold macaw. She's decided to be very active right now. Some of that noise may come through. Madam Secretary, the next item on the agenda then is?
We're going to move on to item number 5, and that's to approve the consent calendar, including approval of minutes from the committee and board meetings in December, as well as ratification of previous actions by the auditor controller. The consent calendar is located on pages 5 to 47 of your packet, and I will note and put in a sub 1 or sub 2 to clarify Mr. Pilpel's comment. So I will take care of that on my end. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Then are there any other questions or comments or corrections from board members on the consent calendar? I'm not seeing any. Madam Secretary, are you seeing any?
I see none.
Then.
Oh, wait, hang on 1 second. I saw Director Moulton Peters wave her hand.
Not a comment, but I'll be abstaining from voting on this item since I wasn't here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the item?
So moved.
Second, Rabbit.
I'll second.
Motion, couple seconds. Madam Secretary, you have those?
I have those.
Let's do a roll call vote.
Thank you. We have a first and a second on item 5, and we're going to start with Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Dorsey.
Aye.
Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice.
Yes.
Director Grosval.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Moulton Peters is abstained. Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Safai.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie is absent. Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 17 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. 17 ayes. This item passes. Next item, please.
We're going to move on to item number 6A, and that's a report of the General Manager. And that staff report can be found on pages 49 to 60 of your packet. And General Manager Dennis Mulligan's here to present his report. Go ahead, Dennis.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Before I discuss the recent good news, I do have 2 items where I'm seeking the board's action or approval. I'm asking that you ratify the emergency action that I took to approve a change order on an ongoing emergency construction contract related to the Larkspur Ferry Terminal. We encountered some challenges at Larkspur Ferry Terminal a little less than a year ago, where the original facility was built about a half a century ago. So the utilities in the ground are about a half a century old. And so we had a water line, that's the water line for the ferry facility, that had significant deterioration. And we started exploring, and we found that the gas line adjacent to it had deterioration. But the need for the change order is, as we started excavating the area, and this is immediately adjacent to the bay, we discovered a sinkhole in the roadway immediately in front of our service building where our ferry mechanics operate. And so the sinkhole was adjacent to the utility lines. And so I approved the change order in the amount of $151,287 with Valentine Construction Company to do the repair work. The repair work has begun and it is progressing. So I am seeking board approval or board ratification of the emergency action that I took. And with that, I'll be available to answer any questions.
So are there any questions or comments from the directors for General Manager Mulligan on this action? And again, I am seeing none. And Madam Secretary, I will ask you again, are you seeing any?
I see none as well.
Then I will look for a motion to approve the emergency contract change order with Valentine Corporation.
So moved.
Various motions. Can you take one of those as a second, Madam Secretary?
I can.
Very good. Then please do a roll call vote.
Thank you. We're voting on item 6A1. I'm going to start with Conroy.
Aye.
Thank you. Dorsey.
Aye.
Garbarino.
Aye.
Giudice.
Yes.
Grosval.
Aye.
Hernandez.
Aye.
Maston.
Aye.
Moulton Peters.
Yes.
Parr.
Aye.
Rabbit.
Aye.
Rodoni.
Aye.
Safai.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Stephanie is absent. Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 79.
You're good there, Mr. Mulligan. You have another emergency action item for us, you said.
Yes, thank you, President Theriault. Next, I seek your ratification of the emergency action that I took to approve an emergency change order with Moffitt & Nichols related to the San Francisco Ferry Terminal ramp repair. Moffitt & Nichols is a design firm that specializes in the design of maritime structures. And we engaged them when we discovered problems with our San Francisco Ferry Terminal facility, discovered cracks in some of the steel framing. As part of that work, as it unfolded, they designed in our contract to implement a series of changes. However, as we delve deeper into it, it appears that one of the contributing factors to the original damage was the hydraulic lift system. The district has Rube Goldberg contraptions of ramps that connect from land to the vessel, recognizing that there's tidal fluctuations out there. We have a long-term project to replace these at all of our ferry facilities, but that is a long-term project. In the interim, though, we need to do a damage assessment and we need to do a new design of the hydraulic system so that we don't replicate the damage. And so the item before you seeks your approval for a change order with Moffitt and Nichols in the amount of $269,873 for the hydraulic system rehabilitation design. The design work is progressing. Upon completion of the design, a construction contract will be executed to implement the repairs. And with that, I respectfully ask that you ratify my actions.
Thank you, Mr. Mulligan. Are there directors with comments or questions for Mr. Mulligan on this action? I see none. Madam Secretary.
I also see none.
Then I will look for a motion on the item. Is there a motion to approve the contract change order with Moffitt? There's a motion and a second before I was even quite out of my mouth. Madam Secretary, a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. We're voting on item 682, starting with Conroy.
Aye.
Dorsey.
Aye.
Garbarino.
Aye.
Giudice.
Yes.
Grosboll.
Aye.
Hernandez.
Aye.
Maston.
Aye.
Moulton Peters.
Yes.
Parr.
Aye.
Rapid.
Aye.
Rodoni.
Aye.
Safai.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Stephanie is absent. Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 17 ayes.
17 ayes. The motion passes. Mr. Mulligan, do you have more to report to us? I know.
I do, President Terrio. I'm pleased to announce that since the board last met, as you all know, the district has received a $400 million federal grant for the seismic retrofit of the Golden Gate Bridge. This is fantastic news. For perspective and scale, $400 million represents 2.5 years of tolls, every toll dollar collected for 2.5 years. Another way to look at it is if we had to borrow $400 million to fund this project, the annual debt service payments would have decimated the toll funding available to operate our bus and ferry system. So since it's such huge news, as such, I think it's appropriate to take a few moments to thank the people that helped to make this happen. It takes a village, a lot of folks, and a lot of time to lay the foundation and then to successfully apply for such a grant. First, the framework or opportunity to pursue a $400 million grant needed to be created. Prior to the bipartisan infrastructure law, such an opportunity did not exist. Prior to the bipartisan infrastructure law, the largest discretionary grant available for a highway or bridge was capped at $100 million. Every 4 or 5 years, Congress passes a new transportation authorization where policy changes and funding programs are determined. For the last several years, the district had advocated for changes, including the inclusion of a new bridge program. The bipartisan infrastructure law, which passed late 2021, included this change. The bridge program requires states to spend a portion or a minimum percentage, actually, of the federal gas tax monies they receive on bridges, both state bridges and local bridges. And the Golden Gate Bridge is a local bridge. This change is important to us because as we pursue funding from the state for the bridge, it increases the amount of money that California has available to spend on rehabilitating, retrofitting, and replacing local bridges. We also felt that from a broader perspective, it was a good federal public policy because prior to the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure law, several bridges across the country famously failed. And so we felt that it was prudent for the feds to require states to dedicate a certain amount of their gas tax revenues to bridges. With respect to the $400 million grant, the bipartisan infrastructure law also includes a nationwide discretionary or competitive program for bridges. This was new. We sought this program because, unlike an earmark, which would be challenging for folks to do, we felt that a discretionary program is something that we could compete well for, because if we're competing against bridges, this bridge stands out. Additionally, the bipartisan infrastructure law included a large bridge section within this program. So this created for the first time a new large program that allows for multi-year grants of more than $100 million. And this opened the door for us to apply for $400 million. This was foundational for our efforts. I want to thank Speaker Emerita Pelosi, Congressman Huffman, who sits on the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee that was the authorizing committee, the entire Bay Area delegation, Senators Feinstein and Padilla, for their support for these changes in the transportation authorization legislation that became known as the bipartisan infrastructure law, and that became law just over a year ago. I also want to thank our Washington, D.C. consultant, Paul Schlesinger, and I want to thank those directors who trekked with Amrit and I to Washington, D.C. to advocate for these changes, specifically Director Cochran, who chairs our GAPI committee, former President Hernandez, former President Grosboll, and current President Mike Theriot. The district competed in the first round of this new grant program. 40 large bridge projects were submitted nationwide, and only 4 bridges were selected for funding. The competition was fierce. In previous discretionary grant cycles, the district did struggle. We struggled for several years when we applied for what was known as infra grants. This was a program that was capped at $100 million, and we were unsuccessful each time. Our application struggled with the federal benefit cost analysis. After several cycles, we did a deep dive into DOT's economist benefit cost analysis methodology and some of the underlying assumptions. We discovered that their methodology was flawed and discriminated against extreme event projects such as seismic retrofit and tornadoes. So we worked to fix this quirk. What we found was that over the years, every retrofit project throughout the country that had applied for funding, every tornado protection project, any extreme event project failed due to the interpretation of the benefit cost analysis. So we worked with a lot of folks to fix this. I want to thank Federal Highways Bridge Office in Washington, D.C., Federal Highways California Office, Paul Schlesinger, Robert Edmondson, district staff, and our consultants for shaping how projects that protect against extreme events, such as earthquake or extreme wind, are evaluated. It was a multi-year effort to navigate all this and to submit a successful, thorough, and well-written grant application. So I now wish to rattle off the names of all the staff who helped make this happen, because it would not have happened but for each and every one of these people. Since it was a multi-year effort, 2 of the employees no longer work for us, and I want to recognize them, Jennifer Ropock and Danielle Garigno. Current district staff, in no particular order, who helped make this happen: Justine Bach, Jake Brown, Chi Chow, Amy Fry, Alice Ng, Joe Wire, Amaret Ko Wong, Ava Bauer-Furbush, John Eberly, Chuck Vaughn, Maria Roner, Paolo Costa-Schwartz, Robin Lowry, Dana Thaler. And I want to thank the consultants that assisted us, WSP and HDR, as well as, once again, Paul Schlesinger. It took a village. That was a village. And so I want to acknowledge all of them and say hats off to them. Moving on to other items, a bit of good news that's not in my written report. Good, but not $400 million good. The state Supreme Court issued a ruling with respect to ongoing litigation associated with Regional Measure 3. Regional Measure 3 was something that the legislature authorized that Bay Area voters passed that had been challenged by the Jarvis tax folks in California. At each step of the way, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, acting as the Bay Area Toll Authority, prevailed, and the Howard Jarvis folks appealed it. The state Supreme Court just this week dismissed and remanded the case back to the appellate court. So this is great news for transportation throughout the Bay Area. Specifically for us, the Regional Measure 3 includes $30 million to build a new San Rafael Transit Center. But it's a big sigh of relief for our partners at SMART, BART, SFMTA, Caltrain, AC Transit, and for transit advocates and transportation capital projects throughout the region, including the 101-580 connector in Marin County. So I'd be remiss if I did not mention that. One of the speakers mentioned the governor's proposed budget. It is true that the governor's proposed budget acknowledges a $29.5 million shortfall in general fund revenues, and it does propose a variety of changes, including reducing the TIRCP money, which is money for transit that had been previously committed. The important thing to know that it is a proposed budget, and the legislature and the governor will have negotiations over the coming months, and so there will be more to follow. But we appreciate the challenges that they have as they strike a balance between the competing needs, and we look forward to see the resolution of that. Moving on to other things, late last year, Assembly Bill 2949 was signed into law by the governor on September 30th. It took effect January 1st. It's something that kind of snuck up on toll agencies in California, but it provides a new toll exemption program for certain eligible veterans. I'm pleased to announce that your staff, working with the Bay Area Toll Authority and their contractor Conduit, have implemented this complex program to meet the January 1st deadline. So my written report provides lots of details. The key thing is that it has been implemented and we are in compliance with the applicable laws and regulations. Now I'd like to remind you that back in October, my report to the general manager, I mentioned that a month prior, district laborers notified the sergeant's office that a bicyclist had gone down in the east parking lot. This bicyclist was very fortunate. If they had come through a half hour earlier, our laborers would not have been at work. But Bridge Patrol roadway services staff arrived on the scene, and district personnel advised that the person was not breathing, began CPR. So a district AED, automated external defibrillator, delivered 3 separate shocks to the person. District staff and California Highway Patrol staff took turns administering CPR prior to the arrival of San Francisco Fire Department. So I'm now going to ask Amaretko Wong to play a brief video from the gentleman.
Hey everyone, I'm the guy you saved on the bridge. Just want to thank you. Can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart for what you guys did for me. I'm here in Maine 2.5 weeks later, suffering no ill effects other than a few broken ribs. So you did your job well. It's great, but no memory loss, no brain problems or anything. I can move around, can do anything I want, and it's only because of the work that you guys did. I just can't thank you enough. Owe you guys big time. Hopefully I can go out to San Francisco again sometime and thank you personally, or if you ever come to Maine. Thanks again. Love you guys.
So I thought I'd share the kind words from Mr. Grainer thanking our staff. I do now wish to acknowledge some employee transitions. We have a bus operator who retired, Sylvia Cauldron. She retired after 20 years and 27 days of service with the district. She became a full-time bus operator on December 5th of 2002, and we wish her a long and happy retirement. We have one employee receiving a 25-year service award this month, Anthony Tesson. He's a bus operator. He celebrated 25 years of service with the district on January 12th, and he joined us as a full-time operator on January 12th, 1998. We thank him for his service and look forward to hopefully many, many more years of service from him. Then finally, the Employee of the Month Committee, which is a committee comprised of employees, not managers, selects one of their own each month to be recognized. And this month they recognize Andrew Bullery. He's in the bus division. He's a bus mechanic, and they recognize him as the Employee of the Month. He's recognized for his professionalism, resourcefulness, and work ethic by his colleagues. He started at the district originally as a bus servicer. Through hard work and dedication, taking advantages of the ladders of opportunity that exist here at the district and his abilities, he moved him into the position of bus maintenance, first as an apprentice bus mechanic. He went on to complete the apprenticeship program and became a journeyman bus mechanic. And during his years, he set himself apart from others very quickly with his abilities. He impressed the journeyman even as an apprentice. His colleagues share that he's a calm person, very motivated, and is never afraid to figure out how something can be done better. He can diagnose problems and things, and he is greatly appreciated by his colleagues. He was born in Santa Rosa. He completed his early education years there and then attended Rancho Cotty High School in Rohnert Park. Got to mention that since one of our board members is from there. And then on to Santa Rosa Junior College, where he received an AA degree and has a heavy-duty diesel certification. He's been a resident of Rohnert Park since 1985, where he lives with his wife, Annie, and their daughters, Rosalie and Louisa. In his free time, he enjoys classic car restoration, camping, and is a volunteer at his daughter's co-op preschool. He was also an Eagle Scout. And we want to wish him all the best and congratulate him on being selected as the Employee of the Month. That concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Mulligan. Are there directors with questions from Mr. Mulligan? Madam Secretary, oh, there's Director Thayer, please.
I just wanted to say one thing in the context of his report. General Manager Mulligan thanked everyone for the $400 million that was received, but he neglected to thank himself. So I am going to thank him, and I'm going to say that getting federal funding in that amount and being one of 4 projects out of 40 to get that funding takes so much work. And there are so many factors that you have to show as a public agency to compete and to win those dollars. The win-loss rate on that is 90% of the public agencies that present their proposals do not get funded. So I really want to give a big shout out to our general manager and CEO, Dennis Mulligan. I want to say that your expertise and professionalism is always amazing me. You're running this district in a manner that I think is absolutely incredible. And I think you'll go down in history as one of the best general managers ever. So I wanted to say that. I also want to shout out to the staff. I know it takes a huge group of people working day and night and probably overtime to get this done. And I want to thank you on behalf of, myself as one director, and say that I am so excited about the funding. Seismically retrofitting right now, it's basically the middle of the bridge, is going to keep this icon for future generations and will outlive all of us. So a huge thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Director Thier. I think actually at the moment we can all pause for a moment of celebration, jubilation, and applaud everyone who's been involved in this, including General Manager Mulligan. Thank you again. Any other directors with questions or comments for the General Manager? I don't see any, Madam Secretary.
I don't see any as well.
I do have a small one. One of the items in correspondence this month was from a Mr. Chungman Kui, who remarked on the disappearance of Cantonese from the ticketing machines at Ferry. I would just ask the general manager to have a look at that if he would. I think especially with regard to the Angel Island run, it's good to have Cantonese on those machines. Anyone else?
Follow up on that.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, then Madam Secretary, the next item, please.
We're going to move on to item number 6B, and that's the report of the attorney, Kim Manolius' monthly staff reports found on page 61. And Kim's here to present his report. Kim, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. As the district secretary said, my written report's before you. Happy to take any questions. And one piece of very small good news, there's no closed session today.
We'll take whatever good news we can get. Thank you, Mr. Manolius. Are there directors with questions or comments for Mr. Manolius on the written report you've seen? Again, none. Again, Madam Secretary.
All right, we're going to move on to item 16. That's the report of the chief engineer. The report can be found in the Building and Operating Committee meeting packet as agenda item number 5. And Ava Barr-Furbish is here to present her report. Ava, go ahead. Ava, you have to unmute.
I'm sorry. President Torio, members of the board, my written report is before you, and I would like to highlight 3 projects for you today, their status. First is the suicide deterrent project construction. And the very good news is that the contractor is working now on both approaches as well as on the suspension bridge. They continue installing net supports on the south approach viaduct, the north approach viaduct, and also the 4-point arch. As you may recall, today the contractor completed the installation of the net on the west side of the north approach viaduct. There is also progress in the net installation on the suspension bridge, and I will go from south to north. What we call south side span, we call it span 1. The contractor began installation of the net in that portion of the suspension bridge. They began from the south tower and proceeding south. The contractor completed the installation of the net in so-called span 2, which is the south half of the main span of the suspension bridge, and the net being unrolled full length of span 3, which is the north part of the main span. So what's outstanding in that location is so-called sewing, means permanent attachment of the net to the border cables. And finally, there is progress also in the north back span, which we call span 4. The contractor began installation of a special access system that they will use for the installation of the net in that location. There is also work progressing at the main towers. The contractor is progressing with the installation of quite an elaborate access system at the North Tower, as well as they began installation of similar access system at the South Tower. So I move on right to the Toll Plaza Administration Building Elevator Improvement Project. And there is slightly bad news because you may recall the contractor is waiting for the delivery of the elevator control system. That component supposed to arrive this month, but now it will be delayed by probably another month, which means that the elevator will, right now we assess, will not be completed until probably towards the end of April. And finally, I'm pleased to report that the dredging of the Larkspur Terminal berth and channel has been completed. The contractor completed this work on December 22nd. So with this, I'll be happy to answer any questions that directors may have for me.
Thank you, Ms. Bauer-Furbush. Are there directors with questions or comments for Ms. Bauer-Furbush? I'm seeing none. Madam Secretary, are you seeing any?
I see no hands raised.
Okay, then, Madam Secretary, let's move along with the agenda.
We're going to move on to item 8 since there's no other reports under item number 7. Item number 8A is the report of the Transportation Committee meeting of yesterday, Thursday, January 26th. There's a summary of recommendation for this meeting can be found on page 65 of your packet.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, colleagues. As is always the case, the item was pretty thoroughly discussed and vetted at the committee meeting yesterday. Before coming before you today for your approval, Chair Hill, please begin your report.
Excuse me. Thank you. I want to first thank staff for the excellent presentation to the committee. We look forward to the results of the survey and appreciated the regional network management update by Director of Planning, Ron Downing. I don't think Ron was here yesterday at the meeting, at the end of the meeting, when I commended him for his numerous presentations during yesterday's meetings. Thanks again to staff for their work. I would like to start with item 8, period A, period 1, to approve the award of contract number 2022-D-88 Regional Bus, Ferry, and Bridge User and Non-User Survey with Corey, Canterbury, and Galenas for a total not to exceed the amount of $362,388 to provide consulting services for a regional bus, ferry, and bridge user and non-user survey, with the understanding that requisite funds are available in the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 District Division operating budget as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Various possible seconds. Are there questions or comments from board members on item 8A1? I'm seeing none. Madam Secretary, a roll call vote then, please.
Thank you. We have a first and second on 8A1, starting with Director Conroy. Director Conroy, you still there?
I'm sorry. I was muted. Aye.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about
Dorsey?
Aye.
Garbarino?
Aye.
Giudice?
Yes.
Grossball?
Aye.
Hernandez?
Aye.
Maston?
Aye.
Moulton Peters?
Yes.
Parr?
Yes.
Rabbit?
Aye.
Verdoni?
Aye.
Safai?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Stephanie is absent. Thier?
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill?
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran?
Yes.
And President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 17 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. 17 ayes. The item passes. Chair Hill, do you have anything more for us?
No, thank you.
All right then, Madam Secretary. Next item on the agenda, please.
Item 8B is the report of the Building and Operating Committee meeting, also of yesterday, January 26th, and that summary of recommendation for the meeting is on page 67 of your packet. Before I turn things over to you, I'm going to remove Director Thier from the room due to a conflict. And give me 1 second. All right. Director Thayer is now in the holding room, so we can continue. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Then we'll proceed. Again, the item was discussed, 8B1 was discussed yesterday at the Building and Operating Committee meeting before coming before you today pretty thoroughly. Chair Garbarino, your turn to report.
Thank you, Mike. And thank you as well. I'd also like to echo my thanks to Ron, who seemingly presented almost every item yesterday and did a Herculean job. It was great. His explanation and the importance of the item before the Building and Operating Committee is what I am recommending today. We have one item, and that is to authorize execution of the First Amendment to contract number 2019 F058. Larkspur Ferry Service and Parking Expansion Environmental Clearance and Preliminary Design Study with Jacobs Engineering Group for additional consulting services in an amount not to exceed $948,260. This action also increases the project contingency by $94,826 to a total of $346,228, which is equal to 10% of the contract amount, including the First Amendment, and increases the fiscal year 2022-2023 Ferry Division capital budget for project number 2042 in the amount of $1,043,086, as concurred with by the Finance Audit Committee as well, and I so move.
I'll second it. There's a motion and there's a second, which you have, I'm sure, Madam Secretary. Then are there questions or comments from board members on this item? I'm seeing none. I'm seeing no hands raised or waving. I've commented on this plenty already. I'll keep my mouth shut about it today. Madam Secretary, a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. We have a first and a second on 8B1, so I'm going to start with Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Dorsey.
Aye.
Thank you. Garbarino.
Aye.
Giudice.
Yes.
Grosbull.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Aye.
Maston.
Aye.
Moulton Peters.
Yes.
Parr.
Aye.
Rabbit.
Aye.
Bertoni.
Aye.
Safai.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Stephanie is absent. There is also absent from this room. Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 16 ayes.
Thank you. 16 ayes. The motion passes. Shall I wait for you to bring Director Thayer back in?
She is entering the room. All right. Thank you. She's back.
Very good. Then Chair Garbarino, do you have anything else for us today?
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Chair Garbarino. Madam Secretary, next item on the agenda.
We're going to move on to item 8C, and that's a report of the Finance Auditing Committee meeting also of yesterday, January 26th. And that summary of recommendations is before you on page 69 of your packet. Turning it back to you.
And again, these items were discussed and vetted before the Finance and Auditing Committee yesterday. Chair Rabbit, you've been busy as usual. Please begin your report.
Thank you, President.
Excuse me. This is Emery, to the chairs and to Secretary. I need to recuse myself from 8C1.
Thank you. You've noted that, Madam Secretary. And tell me when we're ready to go.
Thank you.
Are we clear, Madam Secretary?
All right, go ahead.
All right. Director Rabbit, again, please.
Yeah, no, thank you again, Mr. President Terrio. The Finance Auditing Committee is recommending the approval of item 8C1, designating the General Manager, Director of Risk Management and Safety, and the Director of Capital and Grant Programs or designees as authorized agents to submit and file public assistance applications with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, and the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, Cal OES, for federal and state disaster financial assistance and that such designation will be effective for 3 years as authorized by Cal OES as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And there's a second. Various possibilities there. Are there directors with questions or comments on Director Rabbitt's motion and the item? I see none. So Madam Secretary, roll call vote, please.
All right, thank you. Our first and second, starting with Director Conroy, who's removed from the room, and Dorsey.
Aye.
Garbarino.
Aye.
Giudice.
Yes.
Grosboll.
Aye.
Hernandez.
Aye.
Maston.
Aye.
Moulton Peters.
Yes.
Parr.
Aye.
Rabbit.
Aye.
Verdoni.
Aye.
Safai.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Stephanie is absent. Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Terry.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 69.
16 ayes. The item is adopted. Do we want to wait for Director Conroy to come back in?
Bringing her back. Okay, she is back.
All right. Chair Rabbit, onward, please.
The Finance Auditing Committee is also recommending item 8C2 to authorize the setting of a public hearing to receive public comment on a proposal to establish a 5-year FAIR program for fiscal years 2023-24 to 2027-28, effective July 1st, 2023, and each subsequent July 1st through July 1st, 2027. The public hearing would take place virtually on Thursday, February 23rd, 2023 at 9 a.m. as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Any questions or comments from board members on this particular motion?
This is Dick. I do have one question.
Yes, please go ahead, Director Grossball.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, it doesn't really relate to the hearing, but Joe, yesterday, I think you said that the revenue for transit, the fare box revenue had gone down to 7%. Was that a correct figure? And if so, what was the percentage before the pandemic? Was that closer to 20?
Yes, that is a correct percentage. And yes, it was closer to 20 prior to the pandemic. It was, and it's not, that was the figure for bus part of transit. Ferry transit has a higher fare box recovery rate. But yes, it was close to 20%, just below. And then prior years, say 5 years ago, we were above 20% on the bus side.
The ferries were what? Closer to 15% or something?
The ferries right now are just above 15%, closer to 17%, but they used to be above 50% and as high as 55%.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Grossball. Are there other directors with questions or comments on this item?
I was going to ask, I know the RM3 stuff is good news and it doesn't really affect us directly, but does indirectly through some of our project stuff. Is that going to have any kind of impact on our fiscal cliff that we're seeing in a couple of years?
No, unfortunately, we don't receive operating funds for it. The only agency that sees a benefit for their fiscal cliff is WIDA, which is the other ferry operator, because they'll get operating money every year out of Regional Measure 3. So it doesn't change unfortunately, the mathematics of when we run into a funding shortfall due to the federal one-time COVID relief money being expended.
But we're going to get a little bit for the transit center.
Yeah, we'll get $30 million of capital funds to construct the new transit center. So we're really very, very grateful for that. Plus, we are just glad to see all of our fellow agencies in the Bay Area see improvements for capital projects, and we did get operating funds.
That is good news.
Thank you. Any other directors with comments or questions on this item? Director Abbott, you lit up, but you're the one who had the item. So then, Madam Secretary, let's move along to a roll call vote.
Thank you. We're voting with the first and second on 8C2. Start with Director Conroy.
Aye.
Dorsey.
Aye.
Garbarino.
Aye.
Giudice.
Yes.
Grosboll.
Aye.
Hernandez.
Aye.
Maston.
Aye.
Moulton Peters.
Yes.
Parr.
Aye.
Rabbit,
Aye.
Rodoni,
Aye.
Safai,
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Stephanie is absent. Thier,
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill,
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran,
Yes.
and President Terrio.
Yes.
You have 17 ayes.
17 ayes, the item passes. Chair Rabbit, please continue.
The Finance Auditing Committee is recommending approval of item 8C3 to authorize a budget increase in the fiscal year 22-23 District Division capital budget in the amount of $136,234 relative to capital project number 1960 Farebox System Upgrade for a total project cost of $729,612, and authorize the general manager or his designee to amend contract number 2021-D-70 with GenFair GFI software system upgrade to increase the contract amount by $113,528 for a new total of $574,775, and increase the contract contingency amount by $22,706 for a new total of $76,602. All of this is detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And there's a second. Questions or comments from board members on this item? I see none. Madam Secretary, roll call vote, please.
Thank you. For the first and second on 8C3, starting with Director Conroy.
Aye.
Dorsey,
Aye.
Garbarino,
Aye.
Giudice,
Yes.
Grossbull,
Aye.
Hernandez,
Aye.
Maston,
Aye.
Moulton Peters,
Yes.
Parr,
Aye.
Rabbit,
Aye.
Rodoni,
Aye.
Safai,
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Stephanie is absent. Thier,
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill,
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran,
Yes.
and President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 17 ayes.
17 ayes. Item again passes. Chair Rabbit, you're in the home stretch. Go for it.
And finally, the Finance Auditing Committee is recommending approval of item 8C4 to receive the independent auditor's financial reports as submitted by Eide Bailey LLP for the annual comprehensive financial report for the year ending June 30th, 2022, and to receive the independent auditor's communication letter regarding matters related to the audit as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. Questions or comments on the exciting item of an audit? I see none. Madam Secretary, a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Voting on item 8C4 with the first and second, starting with Director Conroy.
Aye.
Dorsey,
Aye.
Garbarino,
Aye.
Giudice,
Yes.
Grossbull,
Aye.
Hernandez,
Aye.
Maston,
Aye.
Moulton Peters,
Yes.
Parr,
Aye.
Rabbit,
Aye.
Rodoni,
Aye.
Safai,
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Stephanie is absent. Thier,
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill,
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran,
Yes.
and President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 17 ayes.
17 ayes. The item passes. Chair Rabbit, are we done?
We are, Mr. President. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Chair Rabbit. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Thank you. We're moving on to item 8D, and that's the report of the Rules Policy and Industrial Relations Committee meeting of this morning, January 27th. And that summary recommendation for this meeting is found on page 71 of your packet.
Thank you. Once again, this item was discussed fairly thoroughly this morning after a great presentation. Chair Hernandez, please begin your report.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The Rules Policy and Industrial Relations Committee, as the President just said, met earlier this morning, and there's one item to recommend for board approval. The committee is recommending board agenda item number 8D1 to authorize updates to the district procurement manual that would allow for the inclusion of social equity as an evaluation factor in some district best value procurements as detailed in the staff report, and I so move, Mr. President.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. Are there questions or the comments or anything from directors on this item? Go ahead, please.
I might add one thing. No, I didn't kind of chime in, but I really appreciate Director Hernandez's leadership on this, and dealing with some of the. I know at one point somebody mentioned a PLA. I think Dennis did on some of the stuff, and there is some pretty innovative stuff that we've done at the Port of Oakland with project labor agreements and equity, and building apprenticeship in disadvantaged communities into labor apprenticeship programs. And I think this is such an innovative thing we're doing, and that we're leading on. There are some templates out there too that I think are, the Bay Area is such a great kind of a experimental place to put some of this stuff. So I'm glad that we're leading on this, and there are a lot of great examples that we can look to as we kind of suss it out. But I appreciate it, and I'm enthusiastic. Yes.
I'm a little bit familiar with some of those examples, although I no longer negotiate those things. And I want to piggyback on Director Snyder's compliments to Director Hernandez for her work on this. Are there other directors with, I see Director Grossball with his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to also, for the new directors, there's a lot of history to this item, and former President Parr and certainly Mike does now, but Sabrina, tremendous work on this, as well as the staff. So, and we learned this morning in the hearing that there aren't many other agencies doing this kind of work. So I agree with what Director Snyder said and what the chair just said. But anyway, kudos to moving forward on this, and we hope that we'll have it make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Grossball. Director Thier.
Yes, I just want to piggyback on my fellow director's comments and give a big shout out to Director Hernandez for her leadership, also to staff for their work. This really is, we are setting the standard and leading the way, and it makes me very proud. So thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Director Thier. Anyone else with comments or questions on this item? I see none, Madam Secretary. Do you see any?
I see none as well.
Then let's proceed to a roll call vote.
Thank you. We're voting on item 8D1 with a first and second, starting with Director Conroy.
Aye.
Dorsey?
Aye.
Garbarino?
Aye.
Giudice?
Yes.
Grossbull?
Yes.
Hernandez?
Aye.
Meston?
Aye.
Moulton Peters?
Yes.
Parr?
Aye, and thanks again to Sabrina for leading this.
Rabbit?
Aye.
Rodoni?
Aye.
Safai?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Stephanie is absent. Thier?
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill?
I'd like to thank also Lima Davenport for her work on this, and enthusiastic aye, or yes.
First Vice President Cochran?
Yes.
And President Interior?
Yes.
Thank you. You have 17 ayes.
17 ayes. Item passes. Chair Hernandez, I am remembering only one item from this morning's Rules Committee meeting. Am I remembering correctly?
Yes, you are, Mr. President, but if I just may say a few things. Number one, I'd like to thank all of my colleagues for the gracious accolades. I want to, just for the record, note that this is the first formal action that this body has taken as a direct result of work product of this new committee. I'm very excited that the committee will continue to meet and evaluate other ways in which we can improve with regard to equity issues. And I want to also recognize and thank all of the staff again, and the committee itself for all of the hard work to get to this point. Excited for the future work that we're going to do. And also recognize special recognition to Brian Garrity, the director of our procurement program, Tima Davenport, the director of our disadvantaged business enterprise program, and also Julie Sherman, who guided us through all of the legal pitfalls that we were trying to avoid in discussing this topic and getting to this point. So thank you very much. That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair Hernandez. Madam Secretary, next item on the agenda, please.
Thank you. There are no addresses to the board under agenda item 9. Moving on to agenda item number 10A, relative to conducting the remote meetings from committee and board meetings. Again, before you, seeking the board's approval to adopt a resolution to allow us to continue these remote meetings in accordance with Assembly Bill 361 until the sunset of the governor's state of emergency on February 28th. This will probably be in February will be the last time I'll ask for it. And that's with the understanding that we're going to consider it one final time on our meeting on February 24th.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments from board members on item 10A? Then I will look for a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and various seconds. Madam Secretary, a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Voting on item 10A with a first and second, starting with Director Conroy.
Aye.
Dorsey.
Aye.
Garbarino.
Aye.
Giudice.
Yes.
Grosboll.
Aye.
Hernandez.
Aye.
Maston.
Aye.
Moulton Peters.
Yes.
Parr.
Aye.
Rabbit.
Aye.
Rodoni.
Aye.
Safai.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Stephanie is absent. Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 17 ayes.
17 ayes. Again, motion passes. Madam Secretary, next item.
Next item is 10B, and that's the discussion and possible action to terminate the suspension of the board procedural rules and policies for COVID-19 related emergency actions. Mr. Mulligan's brief staff report is on page 75, and he's available to answer any questions directors may have.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Are there board members with questions or comments on this item for General Manager Mulligan?
Where are we going to meet?
That was the last item and is yet to be determined. We're working on it. Anyone else? Then what I would look for is a motion to continue consideration of this item to special order of business at the next regular meeting of the board.
So move, Rodoni.
Motion and a second?
Second, Cochran.
And a second, Madam Secretary, another roll call vote.
Thank you. Voting on item 10B with a first and second, starting with Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Dorsey.
Aye.
Garbarino.
Aye.
Giudice.
Yes.
Grosboll.
Yes.
Hernandez.
Aye.
Maston.
Aye.
Moulton Peters.
Yes.
Parr.
Aye.
Rabbit.
Aye.
Rodoni.
Aye.
Safai.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Stephanie is absent. Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. That's 17 ayes.
17 ayes. This one too passes. Madam Secretary, next item.
Thank you. The next item is 10C, and that item is to ratify appointments by the board president to represent the Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District on other boards. Brief staff report of the president's recommendations on page 77.
Could I get you, Madam Secretary, to restate those appointments?
Sure, I will do so. For the Amalgamated Transit Health and Welfare Trust and Retirement Board, we have 3 seats, and the trustees being recommended are Gerald Cochran, Director Cochran, Chris Snyder, and yourself, President Terrio. And on the Sonoma Marin Area Rail Transit District, we have 2 seats, and that's Directors Patty Garbarino and Barbara Parr. And the terms for both of these boards, just so I could be clear, the term for both of them would be from February 1st, 2023 to January 31st, 2025.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to give an opportunity for discussion, though, here. Is there any discussion or are there questions or comments on these appointments? I'm seeing none. I know how I'm going to vote, despite my knowing better in some ways.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Isn't that the truth?
I think you appointed us to a very challenging board, Mr. President Terrio.
We all appreciate what you 3 are doing on that board.
Yes.
Madam Secretary, take us to a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. We're voting on item 10C with a first and second, starting with Director Conroy. He's no longer on the line, so Director Conroy is absent. Director Dorsey.
Aye.
Garbarino.
Aye.
Giudice.
Yes.
Grosboll.
Aye.
Hernandez.
Aye.
Maston.
Aye.
Moulton Peters.
Yes.
Parr.
Aye.
Rabbit.
Aye.
Rodoni.
Aye.
Safai.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Stephanie is absent. Beer.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 69.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. 16 ayes. This one also passes. We are reappointed. We have no unfinished business and no new business to report. Item number 13 is communications. If you'd like a copy of communications, please contact the District Secretary's office. I got them from her the other day. That takes us to the end of the agenda, and there are no further items to come before us today. Thank you, everyone who joined us today. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And one of those we could take as a second, I think, Madam Secretary.
That's correct.
Very good. Is there any objection to our adjournment? I see various head shakes and hear no one objecting, so I will say no. We will adjourn today's meeting in memory of Kevin Hunter, spouse of former Director Gina Belforte from Sonoma County, Robert Doyle, former manager of IBW, Local Union 6, and a close mentor of Director Hernandez, and victims of the all too frequent recent shootings in California. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. I don't have a gavel here. I'll just wrap the desk and say this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, President Terrio. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, the